The National News Desk, locally covered, nationally connected.
You have agitators, and we will always be protecting ICE, and we're always going to be protecting our Border Patrol and our law enforcement.
New video out of Minneapolis. What we are learning about the victim and the minutes leading up to the fatal shooting on Wednesday.
And the other thing people ask about the second wave, I don't think it's going to be necessary.
Restoring diplomatic relations with Venezuela, why President Trump says further military action in the country may not be necessary as the administration advances efforts to revive the Venezuelan oil sector. And then combating fraud in Minnesota. The new restrictions the Treasury Department is putting in place to help identify suspicious money transfers out of the country. Good evening. I'm Taylor Murray. Welcome to the National News Desk, America's News Now. We begin with breaking news this evening out of Minneapolis. New cell phone video has been released that captures those fatal moments on Wednesday when an ICE agent shot a protester blocking the road with her vehicle. Now take a look at your screen. In the video, we see the car as the agent circles before stopping in front. The video also shows the moment the victim attempts to drive away, and it appears to show the agent being struck by that vehicle. The National News Desk, Kayla Gaskins, has much more on this new video, as well as what we know about the victim herself.
Federal sources say Renee Good, the woman shot and killed by an ICE agent in Minneapolis this week, was involved in a, quote, ICE watch group that trained members to interfere with ICE monitoring and sometimes attempting to interfere with President Trump's nationwide illegal immigration crackdown.
You have a woman who is trying to obstruct a legitimate law enforcement operation. I can believe that her death is a tragedy while also recognizing that it's a tragedy of her own making and a tragedy of the far left who has marshaled an entire movement, a lunatic fringe against our law enforcement officers.
This picture of Good is in sharp contrast to those who knew her.
A neighbor who, is not a terrorist, not an extremist. That was just a mom who loved her kids, loved her spouse.
Critics supportive of Good insist the ICE agent was not in any danger and wasn't justified in firing at her.
Give me a break. No, he was not ran over. He walked out of there with a hop in his step.
Legal systems widely recognize vehicles as potential deadly weapons, with investigators looking at speed, direction, and intent to determine whether deadly force is justified.
You want to come at us? I say go get yourself some lunch, big boy.
In this incident, video from social media, including footage purportedly shot from the agent's phone, shows the SUV moving in the agent's direction before he fired. Investigators say all of these factors will be closely examined as part of the ongoing probe. The agent, identified as Jonathan Ross, was also previously dragged and injured last June during an attempted arrest, illustrating the risks the Trump administration says they face during operations.
Right now, immigration and customs enforcement officers are facing a 1,200% increase in assaults, a 3,200% increase in vehicle rammings, and an 8,000% increase in death threats.
In the wake of the shooting, the FBI is now investigating the funding of these protests. The New York Post reporting the parent organization of one group behind the protests, Indivisible Twin Cities, received millions of dollars in recent years from liberal billionaire George Soros's Open Society Foundation. In Washington, I'm Kayla Gaskins reporting for the National News Desk, America's News Now.
And meanwhile today, the Democratic mayor of Minneapolis is again calling for local law enforcement to be involved in the investigation into Wednesday's fatal shooting.
We in Minneapolis want a fair investigation. Is it deeply concerning that this administration from the very get-go is drawing the conclusion that they may ultimately come to? Of course it is. And if you got nothing to hide from, then don't hide from it. Include local experts in the process.
Minneapolis officials say they understand it was a federal agent, therefore it's a federal investigation. However, local officials in Minneapolis say they do, in fact, have jurisdiction to decide whether to prosecute the ICE agent who fatally shot that woman Wednesday.
If there is evidence to review, we have jurisdiction to make that decision. So let me be clear here. We do have jurisdiction to make this decision that happened in this case where her life was taken in Hennepin County. It does not matter that it was a federal law enforcement agent.
And the question remains over whether or not the agent was justified in viewing the vehicle as a deadly weapon. Last night, national correspondent Jeff Harris broke down what experts have learned from extensive video being posted online.
Many legal experts are pointing to the video circulating of the fatal shooting, breaking down both tire rotation and vehicle positioning. Some saying Good was actually reversing and attempting to flee rather than hit the ICE agent, while others argue aiming a vehicle at a human is the same as aiming a gun. Now, we do want to warn you, the video you're about to see is graphic.
No!
From legal experts to law enforcement, eyes across the country are analyzing this video and sharing opinions about whether or not they believe an ICE agent was justified firing the deadly shot that killed Minneapolis mother Renee Good.
I mean, sometimes there's no time to get out of the way of these cars. In my mind, when I saw this, I immediately said justified shooting.
You have to use non-lethal tactics to detain them. That's exactly what should have been done here.
A former federal prosecutor, Nima Rahmani, telling CNN, based off these videos, both on the ground and from above, he doesn't think deadly force was lawful, since the vehicle is seen reversing and tires beginning to turn right, making it appear Good was trying to flee.
The ICE agent wants to prevent someone from fleeing. Well, the law is clear. You cannot shoot someone simply because they're fleeing.
But former FBI Special Agent Jonathan Gilliam and spokesperson for the National Police Association, Betsy Brantner-Smith, disagree. Gilliam telling Just the News, aiming the vehicle at the ICE agent standing in front of the hood is the same as aiming a gun. Brantner-Smith saying he likely thought he was going to be killed.
And they're trying to eliminate the threat, and in this case, the imminent threat was a woman behind the wheel who was obstructing ICE operations.
This is a situation where this ICE agent clearly was in fear of his life.
Former U.S. Attorney for the Western District of Virginia, John Fishwick, tells us, as the FBI accelerates its probe, the ultimate question they will work to answer is, did the ICE officer reasonably believe his life was in danger?
Courts and juries in this country give great deference to law enforcement when they have to make split-second decisions. But ultimately, that's what the FBI needs to determine and to release to the public.
Fishwick adding, most of the time, judges and juries do back law enforcement when facing these quick decisions, and it's not necessarily what could have been done better or what, looking back, they wish somebody had done.
What that officer had to do in the split second, and that will certainly favor this officer as the investigation moves forward.
Now, the Trump administration has been clear. Ramming a car is considered a weapon, and federal agents will use deadly force in order to stop that weapon. President Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance, among others, have called the shooting lawful self-defense, while local officials have dismissed that federal narrative. I'm Jeff Harris reporting from Washington.
Well, we now know the identities of a husband and wife shot by a Border Patrol agent in Portland Thursday. It happened when agents tried to stop a car driven by Luis David Nico Muncada. The Department of Homeland Security says he tried to run the agents over, prompting one to open fire. Moncada's wife, Yorlinis Betzabeth Zambrana Contreras, was in the passenger seat. Both were taken to the hospital with gunshot injuries. Now, according to a post on DHS's X account, the couple is in the country illegally and associated with the gang Tren de Aragua. They say the agent took immediate action to defend himself and others. Portland's mayor challenged DHS's version of what happened. He called for federal agents to halt all operations in his city.
That is why we are calling on ICE to halt all operations in Portland until a full and independent investigation can take place. Our community deserves answers. Our community deserves accountability.
Meanwhile, protests in Portland are surging following the incident. According to Portland's Police Bureau, 6 arrests were made Thursday night near a South Portland ICE facility. Now to the White House, where President Trump met with oil executives seeking investments in Venezuela. The president hopes to secure $100 billion in investments to revive Venezuela's oil industry. Now, the goal rides on the executives' comfort with investing in a country facing instability and inflation. The vice chairman of Chevron, which has been operating in Venezuela for over 100 years, says the company has about 3,000 employees on the ground, and operations will drastically increase over the next 18 18 to 24 months.
I think we have a path forward here very shortly to be able to increase our liftings from those joint ventures 100%, essentially effective immediately.
These great American companies can help rapidly rebuild Venezuela's dilapidated oil industry and bring millions of barrels of oil production to benefit the United States, the people of Venezuela, and the entire world.
Meanwhile, President Donald Trump says he's canceling a second wave of attacks in Venezuela.
We are getting along so well with the people that are involved and representing Venezuela that I don't think we're going to have any I don't think it's going to be necessary to do the second wave. We were planning on a second wave, but the first wave was so powerful and so good and so strong.
Instead of further military action, the U.S. has sent a delegation to Venezuela, the first step toward restoring diplomatic relations after Maduro's capture. President Trump says the U.S. and Venezuela are working well together, especially pertaining to rebuilding their oil and gas infrastructure. Now, in addition, he says the country is seeking peace as it releases a significant number of political prisoners. This announcement comes after the Senate voted to advance legislation to limit the president's war powers in Venezuela. Well, early this morning, U.S. troops took control of another oil tanker in the Caribbean. That's according to U.S. Southern Command. You can see video of that operation here. DHS Secretary Kristi Noem said the ship was carrying, it was suspected, rather, of carrying embargoed oil and had left Venezuela trying to avoid U.S. forces. The military has now seized 5 tankers as the Trump administration tries to control Venezuela's oil industry. Well, Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum says she has asked her Foreign Affairs Secretary to reach out to the U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio or President Trump about Trump's recent comment that the U.S. will soon conduct land strikes on Mexico. Trump told Fox News in an interview Thursday night.
We've knocked out 97% of the drugs coming in by water, and we are going to start now hitting land with regard to the cartels. The cartels are running Mexico. It's very, very sad to watch and see what's happened to that country.
President Trump did not offer further details about the plan. It, of course, comes less than a week after U.S. forces struck Venezuela. President Trump has also been threatening military action in Cuba, Colombia, and Greenland since. The escalation in U.S. military action is being criticized by multiple countries and Democrats here in the United States. But President Trump argues that he's trying to stop the flow of deadly drugs into the country.
Free Luigi! When do we want it? Now! What do we want? Free Luigi! When do we want it? Now!
That's supporters of Luigi Mangione you hear there protesting outside of a Manhattan courthouse today where the alleged CEO murderer attended a hearing. Now, the judge ruled police lawfully seized Mangione's backpack in the Pennsylvania McDonald's where he was arrested. The judge said the federal trial will likely start in December or next January, but if the defense succeeds in getting the death penalty off the table, that trial could be pushed back to start in October. United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson was found dead in New York City in December 2024. All right, coming up, it is a Supreme Court case that could upend the Trump economy. What happened today and what we just learned about the job market. Then a rise in the number of people dealing with multiple chronic conditions and the age group that's affected the most. Plus, the charges a Pennsylvania man is now facing after over 100 skeletons were found in his home. We're back in 90 seconds. The Dow Jones Industrial Average closed the first full week of the year with a record closing high of 49,504.07. Trading closed in on the historic milestone of 50,000 after the U.S. unemployment rate fell further than analysts expected. According to government data, the unemployment rate dipped to 4.4% after the economy added about 50,000 jobs in December. The S&P 500 also hit a new record high today. But the biggest news on the economy came in the form of what wasn't announced, as the U.S. Supreme Court did not issue their decision on whether or not President Trump's tariffs violate the Constitution. National correspondent Audra El-Nashar has more from Washington as we wait on that ruling.
Any day now, the Supreme Court could make or break President Trump's economic agenda. An anticipated opinion from the 9 justices will determine whether Trump overstepped his authority when he rolled out sweeping tariffs on almost every country on earth.
We have a lot of money coming in with the tariffs.
In a move no president has tried before, Trump turning to a 1977 law, the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, or IEPA, to declare fentanyl and trade deficits national emergencies to justify his tariffs.
Tariffs equal national security. Remember that.
Lower courts have sided with the small businesses and Democratic states suing the administration. During oral arguments in November, most of the justices sounded sympathetic to their argument.
The vehicle is imposition of taxes on Americans, and that has always been the core power of Congress.
Should the High Court strike the tariffs down, not only would it be a blow to the Trump economic agenda, it would hamper Trump's foreign policy strategy, too. The White House has come to use tariffs as a diplomatic tool.
In the case of India and Pakistan, 7 planes were shot down. It was a bad one. I talked tariffs. I said, look, if you're going to do that, we're going to put very big tariffs on your country. And they were both great. They stopped fighting.
Trump's tariffs haven't sparked the kind of immediate inflation spike economists feared. Though the Consumer Price Index, one way the government measures the pace of price increases, has risen from 2.2% in April, when the bulk of tariffs were announced, to 2.7% in November. Where tariffs have taken a toll is the job market. Many companies have slowed their hiring as they absorb the cost of tariffs and express uncertainty about the direction of trade policy. 50,000 jobs were added in December, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, about 20,000 fewer than expected. The unemployment rate ticking down from 4.6% to 4.4%. Through tariffs, the president promises a renaissance of American manufacturing. But in 2025, the sector lost 68,000 jobs, according to government data. In Washington, I'm Audra El-Nashar for the National News Desk, America's News Now.
The Treasury Department is cracking down on international bank reporting rules in 2 specific Minnesota counties following what Secretary Scott Bessent calls egregious unchecked fraud. Banks in Hennepin and Ramsey counties, which cover Minneapolis and St. Paul, will now have to report all bank transfers exceeding $3,000. This is a change from $10,000, which is the standard.
Minnesota, unfortunately, is ground zero for what may be one of the most egregious welfare scams in our nation's history to date. Under Governor Tim Walz, billions of dollars intended for families in need, housing for disabled seniors, and services for children were diverted to benefit fraudsters.
Yesterday, speaking at the White House press briefing, Vice President J.D. Vance announced the administration will be nominating a new assistant attorney general tasked with prosecuting those fraud claims. Well, it is tax season and the IRS will soon be open for business. The IRS will start accepting your 2025 tax returns on the 26th. And this year, you should know several new provisions go into effect due to the One Big Beautiful Bill, possibly impacting federal taxes, deductions, and credits. The agency says they expect to receive about 164 million individual tax returns, and taxpayers, as always, have until April 15th to file their taxes without penalty. A new report found adults under 45 are seeing a big jump in chronic conditions. Meanwhile, the Trump administration rolls out new guidelines. The National News Desk, Angela Brown reports.
What's big here? This brand new report. It shows that between 2023 and 2024, we saw more adults dealing with 3 or more chronic conditions, and it's hitting people under 45 the most. But here's where it gets interesting. Obesity, which doctors say drives a lot of these health issues, didn't budge. It's stuck at around 34%. No real improvement, which says a lot about where we are right now. Dr. Ben Carson suggests we've leaned too heavily on artificial ingredients.
We've decided to take the shortcut and move to highly processed food, taking out the high-quality nutrients, replacing them with artificial this, that, and the other.
So here's what the Trump administration is doing. HHS Secretary RFK Jr. is pushing to cut ultra-processed foods. He's flipping the script on low-fat advice, focusing more on whole foods, protein, and full-fat dairy. In his view, chronic illness is partly a result of bad food policy.
Today, the lies stop. The new guidelines recognize that whole, nutrient-dense food is the most effective path to better health and lower health care costs.
In Washington, D.C., I'm Angela Brown.
Coming up, how a Texas man is combining his artistic eye with AI to restore old photos of Austin. We'll be right back. We have reporters all across the country in your neighborhoods covering issues that matter to you. We are taking the pulse of America, and we start in Pennsylvania, where over 100 skeletons were found inside a man's home.
Officials have called this a, quote, horror movie come to life. Court documents state that the home behind me is where Jonathan Gerlach brought human remains that were stolen from cemeteries. While neighbors say the house sits unoccupied tonight, the smell of dead bodies just barely lingers. You can see the houses here are crowded together, but somehow neighbors tell me they had no idea something sinister was happening behind closed doors.
I'm getting goosebumps now, actually, thinking about it.
You know, you don't expect something to be happening right outside your door like that.
Neighbors on Washington Avenue say they've seen suspect Jonathan Gerlach and a woman walking a dog together around the neighborhood. Gerlach is facing 26 counts of burglary and criminal trespassing, in addition to abuse of a corpse and desecration and theft or sale of venerated objects.
Give it up for K90 out of Spanish Fork Police Department.
The furriest member of the Spanish Forks Police Department competed in the annual Las Vegas Canine Trials this past spring. But it's another jump that got him into serious trouble.
For some unknown reason, it decided to jump over the railing, and it was 20 feet below, and it, like I say, ended up kind of hitting the fire truck and on the ground.
Lieutenant Corey Slaymaker says it happened Wednesday during a training exercise that they had done many times before. K90 suffered a collapsed lung, fractured shoulder, and cuts to his legs and mouth. Zero was flown to Mountain West Vet Hospital, leaving his fellow officers on edge.
Is there a little bit of a gap now without having that resource?
It does put a a little bit of a hurt on us for a little while, but at the same time, we're just glad that the dog is okay.
Black and white photographs bloom into color, revealing an Austin most have never seen.
Seeing Congress Avenue before it was paved, you know, when it's like a dirt thing, like, it's like muddy, you know, it's a dirt street out there and people are going in carriages, like, I mean, it's wild.
Douglas Germany spent hours colorizing historic Austin photos using artificial intelligence paired with his own artistic judgment.
Even when it doesn't hallucinate sometimes, like, it might make, like, these cars are sort of an unnatural grade. Like, I'll kind of have to guess which one I think looks better, which one I think looks more natural.
Online, his images have exploded. Comments pouring in from people recognizing streets, buildings, and family stories.
Coming up, the record amount someone just paid for the comic book that launched the superhero genre. Right after this. This is pretty cool. A rare copy of the comic book that contains the first ever appearance of Superman was sold this week for $15 million. Wow. New York City-based Metropolis Collectibles Comic Connect negotiated the record-breaking sale of Action Comics #1. The company's president said there are only around 100 copies left, and that comic was first sold in 1938 for 10 cents. Talk about increasing in value. That's awesome. All right, that's all the time we have for this edition of the National News Desk. I'm Taylor Murray. Thanks for watching.